What's up, guys? Producer TCustomz with TCustomz.com. Today I want to step through a beat that I recently dropped on the site entitled Good and the Bad. I just kind of want to step through all the elements like I've done, the previous breakdown videos, and just talk about all the elements that went into the beat and talk about some different techniques and things that I use. So this is a soul sample track. It was a very kind of slow sample. I ended up speeding it up. So I ended up chopping a lot of pieces in the record and came up with a sequence that's pretty much the loop that was in the intro, although I did change some of the sample chops. I like to put an attack once I get all my sample chops, put a slight attack on those samples. That way I'm not hitting right down on the kicks and snares. If I've chopped on a big hit, it kind of fades in that beginning part. A high pass filter to filter out the bass frequencies, leaves me room for a composed bass line to add later. Delay, on this track I put a small delay just to kind of blend all the sample chops together. And so yeah, the main sample sequence is like this. After I got my main sequence started, working on the drum tracks, kick and snare, I ended up pulling a kick and a snare from the TCustomz Drum Sample Pack Volume 3 and layer some additional sounds on top. I've got 2 snares and a snap for the main snare that goes throughout, and then on every other snare I added an additional snap with some extra reverb and a clap. Added a 40 millisecond delay to some of these extra sounds. So you've got the main snare coming in on the grid, and then these couple samples that are layered, like I said, every other snare, it just comes in like a small delay before. So you've got the clap coming in, and then right after that you've got the snare actually hitting down. So it kind of gives it a cool effect. You'll hear it in the track. One thing to mention as far as the drum group is concerned, I used an Ableton drum group. It's the MPC 16 Double Down. It's definitely a straightforward way to get a certain loose groove for your track, whatever feel you're trying to go for. So at this point, I've already got my my high pass filter on my sample. I've already got room for my bass. And so for the bass line, it's more sub bass. It probably won't come through on like laptop speakers or anything like that, but it's just more for a sub, just to give it some extra low end. So next, just to get some percussion, some hi-hats, I added a closed hat and an open hat. It's a pretty simple, straightforward pattern. So this is where I get to have some more fun with the track. A lot of times, once I already have a foundation and I can go back to revisit the sample and try to find some more pieces. A lot of times I'll find vocal stabs and just some extra pieces to kind of liven up the track or add, extend the 8-bar verse into 16 or some stuff for the hook, whatever. I'll just go back and revisit that sample. Apply a different filter. That way I'm filtering out more of the mid frequencies and I'm left with more of the mid to high-end frequencies. That way it sets well in the mix and it doesn't conflict with the other frequencies that are going on in the main sample. So here's one of the chops that I found. Now you hear all that mid to low frequencies. Now I can bring that high pass filter up, so I'm only left with the the higher end. That was one chop that I used. And so here's all the samples came into the track. now I've got a little more to work with. You know, I've got some extra samples that I can, you know, put in or take away at any given time. At this point, I'm looking at more like percussion, extra sounds that I can bring in and just kind of bring the track together a little more. So I added a gong and a crash, you know, throughout the sequence, and then I just kind of played around. I dug around in a bunch of samples, percussion samples that I had, found some random shakers and just some like miscellaneous percussion sounds, like some kind of rattle sound, and just some different things just to kind of come in at different points and liven the track up. So I added a couple different shakers and then just some miscellaneous percussion sounds. So next, I wanted to maybe add some sort of, something catchy for the hook. A lot of times I like to dabble in some different virtual instruments and just see if I can get a little riff or something going, get a lead sound, whatever. So Omnisphere for me is still a go-to virtual instrument. So I found a couple lead sounds in Omnisphere and layered them. And so this is the lead riff that I came up with. Keep in mind, the more elements that you add to a track, the more flexibility you have as far as the arranging and sequencing goes. So what I had in mind for this is, the synth obviously would be something for a chorus or hook. I can start with the stripped down sample for the first 8 bars, then kind of progress into the extra chops and extra percussion, and then just kind of bring it home with the lead. One other thing that I did is I went back in again to the sample and found some more vocal chops. So there's some vocal chops that come in right around the fourth bar of the hook. They're coming right here. Just something subtle. At this point, I'm looking more at like transitions. I like to add a lot of, most of my tracks I like to add some sort of a transition sound. And then I also did, so I did like some sort of a riser sound, transitioning in and out of the hook. And then also, I had a tom roll. It was a loop that I kind of re-chopped and manipulated a little bit. So you'll hear that, transitioning out of the hook. Okay, so after the second hook, I've got 2 verses and 2 hooks. I did sort of like a little breakdown or bridge. It's the same sample piece that I used for the intro. In the intro, I kind of filter it a little differently and do some things with it. My main sample chops, I'm using MIDI. And now with my break, I basically wanted to use a set loop that was part of the sample. So what I did was I exported that to audio. And that way I have more control over the audio. I can use the Ableton Warp engine to snap certain pieces and get everything warped the way I want it based on the tempo that I have. So I kind of worked with the break a little bit differently than I worked with my main sample chops. So here's what it sounds like transitioning out of the second hook and into the break. I think that was pretty much it as far as all the pieces that went into this track. Again, the intro, like I mentioned, it's the same as the breakdown. I just did some different filtering on it, did some automated filtering and whatnot. You're gonna hear the fully arranged track at the end. If it was helpful, if you guys enjoyed the video, if you guys want more videos like this, just let me know. Drop a comment, like the video, and I'll catch you guys next time. I'm out, guys. Peace.
Purchase your tracks today.